venit din nou la un nou stream. Avem astăzi un improvement. Avem niște chestii în spatele meu, un fel de green screen, cred. E green screen de la Restream. E o pungă cu căcaturi în partea stângă, nu știu dacă se vede. Wow, e super bun paharul ăla de la Guinness. N-are absolut nimic. E safe. E safe. Nu știu dacă sunteți și voi genul ăla de persoane care au toate căcaturile puse pe birou. Efectiv, nu mai dau camera, frate. Poate puțin. Nu se vede, uite. Deja se vede. Aici am mâncat niște pepene. Efectiv. Așa îmi place. Anyway, nu e despre asta vorba în acest stream. Avem un obiectiv. Și obiectivul e să facem un react la week 0. O să dau share screen acum. Deci există share screen, entire screen, window. Cum să pui background? Scrie. Am căutat eu. Sunt un trebuie să fie camera jos, ar trebui să fie pe undeva și să fim așa. Nu cred că e bine. Nu cred că e bine. Nu cred că e bine. Așa e perfect. E perfect. Suntem ok. Ăsta e Restream. Thank you for joining. Ăsta e al doilea stream de test. Mai vedem cum stă treaba. Deci pe primul stream nu aveam background. În streamul ăsta am background. Nu prea se aude super bine cu căștile, deci trebuie să vorbesc puțin mai tare. Și dăm drumul la treabă. Ce voiam să zic înainte de fuck this shit, nu ne trebuie, voiam să vă zic că putem face un react. Nu știu dacă se aude sunetul la video, asta ar fi super mișto dacă s-ar auzi sunetul. Eu am început un program, practic. Eu aș vrea să fiu mai bun în ceea ce se numește Computer Science și ok, 2025, ok, pe edu. Ok. Nu știu unde se aude sunetul, sper să auziți și voi sunetul ăsta. Ia să vedem, să ziceți dacă nu auziți. Output, video, HD. Asta e camera. Nu știu dacă l-auziți și voi. Anyway, să dau un context la ceea ce vreau eu să zic, este că am început să am niște dubii cum merge piața și ce nevoi sunt în piață. Și văzând mai multe păreri, de la panică că AI o să ne ia joburile, am ajuns la altă panică, adică panica că AI ne va lua joburile e numai acolo, dar am altă panică că nu sunt destul de bun. Și asta e normal, e o chestie normală, că mereu te gândești că nu ești destul de bun, mereu vrei să faci un improvement, dar cred că aș putea să fiu mai bun, aș putea să fiu mulțumit cu niște lucruri pe care eu le fac și am zis dacă tot să pierd timp aiurea și am zis hai să facem niște chestii interesante, că mereu îmi place field-ul ăsta în care activez, sunt vai morții mei, am fost mereu un hustler, să zic așa, dar mie îmi place stilul meu de viață, nu știu cum sunteți voi, dar pe partea de IT ai un stil de viață mișto și n-aș vrea să nu-l am. Acum, nu ține de mine tot timpul, dar dacă pot să influențez cumva și să fiu puțin mai sus, why the fuck not, nu? Așa că am făcut un fel de... Am întrebat AI-ul pentru că sunt niște lucruri pe care aș vrea să le învăț. Știi, cumva avem un milestone, avem niște căcaturi de văzut. Eu nu prea știu cod, știu să-l citesc, dar nici așa, sunt niște... Nu știu. Mi-am învățat cum are vorba un prieten, cum e ca muzicantul după ureche. Așa am învățat eu toate nebuniile astea ca să intru în field-ul ăsta. Adică nu am un skill anume, să zic, nici n-am terminat facultatea, nici n-am făcut facultate. Adică e super mult de vorbit aici. Pe partea asta, dar am zis, fuck it, self-taught, whatever, știi, poți să găsești, poți să te ambiționezi. Și ideea e că am întrebat ChatGPT cu ce pot să încep și am vrut să înțeleg niște fundamental programming fundamentals. Și suntem la CS 15, first week 0. Și asta e sugestia ChatGPT-ului, să înțelegem 30-40 de minute dar nu știu de ce mi-a dat first 30-40 minutes, pentru că e o mizerie. Îmi pare rău. Nu e o mizerie sub nicio formă, dar putem să începem video. Deci, practic, ăsta este de la Harvard și Harvard îți face o introducere în computer science. So, let's go! Unde am rămas eu data trecută, pentru că mă uitam, efectiv, creierul meu este efectiv. Nu știu dacă puteți să-l vedeți, văd că aici ai Enter Exit Full Screen, deci nu pot să intru în full screen. Probabil că pot să intru pe YouTube și să-l măresc așa, aici cred că e super bine. Hai să îi dau cu calitate mult mai mare, aici 1080p, voi nu o să-l vedeți 1080p, dar unde am rămas? Suntem pe binary, am înțeles niște chestii la binary, mi-a luat o grămadă, efectiv o grămadă, pentru că sunt dobitoc. Și am înțeles cum se calculează binary, dar am înțeles exact de ce 2 la puterea 0, adică nu știu, gen, am dat niște exemple dacă ce am înțeles eu, ca să putem să facem o recapitulare. Deci avem așa, avem, nu pot să vă arăt că fac share la Windows și vreau să dau share la screen mai degrabă, stop screen share, vă dau acum acces, entire screen, vă dau screen 2, share și cred că pot să-l fac și full screen, nu? Dacă cred. Ok, pot să fac și full screen. Tare. Tare. Bă, eu m-am văzut cu niște chestii, adică luați-o mai încetul cu mine. Aș vrea să nu am background-ul ăsta și aș vrea și eu să fiu undeva, dar fără background aici. Ha-ha! Perfect. Perfect. Și sunt și eu aici. Am ales zidul ăsta, știți, chestia de la Pink Floyd. Pare fi de la albumul de la Pink Floyd. Another brick in the wall. Ah, fucking hell. Cred. We don't... Yeah. Așa pare background-ul ăsta, este exact Another brick in the wall. Dar nu despre asta e vorba. Cred că am și o deficiență de ceva, sigur, că imediat sar. Ca un câine, mă gândesc la ceva efectiv, zic că pigeon. Efectiv. În fine, și ziceam de binary, că aici am rămas cu cursul ăsta, ar trebui să-l terminăm despre ce este vorba și nu prea am înțeles despre ce e vorba. Am înțeles cum se calculează binary, adică, nu știu, avem un număr 127, dacă ar fi 2 la 127, cu ChatGPT, bineînțeles, am întrebat 2 la puterea 5 e 32, 2 la puterea 6 este 64, 2 la puterea 7 e 128. În fine, și tu aici 2 la puterea 7 nu poți să aplici pentru că 128 e mai mare decât 6, 128 e mai mare decât 127, dar poți să faci 2 la puterea 6, care e 64. 64, după aia scazi 127 cu, asta e 1, dacă se divizează egal 1 la un număr la binary. După aia faci 126 minus 64, avem, nu știu, 122, 122 cu 60, 62. Sper. Whatever, da. Și după aia faci 2 la puterea 5, care e 32, și zici că e 1, 32 minus 36, nu, fac 64 minus 32, fac 32, 2 la puterea 5 equals 32, 32 minus 32 equals 0 și după aia 2 la puterea 4 vine 1, 0, 0. Dar cred că am greșit undeva calculul. Că 2 la puterea 5, 32, dar 126 minus 64. Să vezi ce dobitoc sunt. E 60. Ah, da, încă nu bine. Da, anyway, nu e important că nu ne ajută, dar vreau să înțeleg. Știi, sunt niște concepte și cum gândești asta. Și am ajuns la ASCII, care ASCII este ceva American Science Convention. Stai să nu vorbesc peste asta. So knowing now that computers only use zeros and ones, and therefore only contain hardware like transistors, how could you represent something like a capital letter A in English inside of a computer? Which of course is not a number anymore. Like, what could we do? Yeah. Okay, yeah, so we could take the alphabet A through Z in English and we could just assign each letter a number. And honestly, that is not only the correct answer, it's really the only answer. Because at the end of the day, if all you have are zeros and ones available to you, that is the entirety of the potential solution to this problem. So mamă, cum vorbește efectiv ăsta, adică are un mod de a vorbi super rapid. Și după aia repet, adică omul, și faza e că nu se bâlbâie, nu face cum mai fac eu, știi, adică efectiv e totul super posibil și super ok, încât nu ai cum să nu râți, adică este un pedagog. Cum ar veni. And now, trained as you are to do a bit of quick binary math, what decimal number is used to represent apparently capital A? So 65, because it's 64 plus 1 times 1 is 65. What is B? Turns out it's 66. What is C? 67. So they kept things simple there on out. Might have been nice if A were 0 or maybe A were 1, but no, we're stuck with 65 instead. But everything after that is very much predictable. And in fact, for lowercase letters, there's a whole other set of numbers, such as lowercase a happens to be 97, lowercase b happens to be 98, and so forth. But again, this is sort of like CS trivia, but what's important here is that they're indeed contiguous from 65 to 66. Știi ce n-am înțeles? Dacă A-ul e capital, cred că a zis la început, capital A e 65, că e 64 cu 1 și pe aia B-ul e 65 cu 1, 66, 64 cu 1, 65, 65 cu 1, 66. Okay. Beyond the letter A alone. What is this system? What is this mapping that you yourself proposed? It's ASCII, the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. And indeed, it was a bunch of Americans years ago who came up with this system. Unfortunately, at the time, they only allocated 7 and eventually 8 bits total for representing letters, both uppercase and lowercase, numbers on the keyboard as well, punctuation symbols as well. And so per our conversation a moment ago, if the Americans in this room, so to speak, only used 8 bits total, how many different characters can we represent with a computer in this story? So only 255, technically 256, if we again start counting from 0. So that's not nearly enough, but it is to represent all human languages, but it is enough to represent at least English among some others. So here, for instance, is a chart of the ASCII mapping, and sure enough, if we zoom in on like this column here. Okay, 64 e o arond aparent. Și avem 60A, BCD, FG, până K-ul. Ok. Da, curious să te pășești așa. Ok, ai toate caracterele și până sunt la 127, dar nu înțeleg de unde vine 256. Anyway. Ok, văd că, deci, practic, da, e capital și că... Well, suppose you were to receive an email or a text message or like a Google Doc containing this pattern of zeros and ones.
So 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, and so forth and so forth. So 3 bytes worth. 3 sets of 8 bits, that is to say 3 bytes, each of which represents a single letter in ASCII. What message have you received? Well, I'll do the math this time so we don't have to. Suppose what you really received was decimal 72, 73, 33. What message did you just receive? If you recall the previous chart. Hi was in fact correct. Why? Because H is 72, I is 73, and wait a minute, 33. So here's
M-am deconectat, eram în altă planetă, efectiv.
So like that is literally what is going on underneath the hood, so to speak, when you get a text message today that literally says in all caps with an exclamation point, hi, your phone has received at least 3 bytes, each of which represents a letter of the alphabet. Your computer is quickly doing the mental math to figure out exactly what numbers those are, and then looking up in the so-called ASCII chart in its memories, in some sense, what letter should you actually see on the screen there. And so, if you were to then display that message, you would see it indeed in English as opposed to those numeric equivalents. How else might we use this then? Well, here again is that chart, and maybe just to vary things, maybe take a little pressure off of me here. Why don't we try spelling something else? This time a different 3-letter word, but maybe 8 volunteers. Can we get a bite's worth of volunteers? And I can sweeten the deal with some stress balls.
Să-mi bag pula aia, fii atent, sunt prea prost. Și o să aveam niște voluntari. Ok. Ok. Am un prieten și pot să îi zic. Ok. Cred că pierd timpul. Hai să scriu doar de pe 80, o să înțelegeți mai încolo, 117, 108, 117, 108, 117, 108, 97. Bun, asta ar trebui să scriu D cu capital letter, 68, 68, 97, dar e super complicat. Anyway, hai să vedem, am să scriu doar ce să-și pula pe tine,
Audience, come on over. All right, and we will have you reference. Well, we got to see who ends up where. I'll switch this way a little bit. This way, this way. All right, so you shall.
Deci ăștia au 17 ani, 16 ani, 18 ani, nu știu, am 33. Ce diferență de... Sunt bătrân, bă!
And 128, and just compress yourselves a little bit if you could. So
ce naiba e asta, mă?
Represents a bit in a particular place. And let's say this, if you're just standing there sort of uncomfortably without any hand raised, we'll assume that you're representing a 0, quite simply. If your hand goes up, though, the audience should assume that you're representing a 1. And therefore, what we'll do is spell out a 3-letter word, and on each round of this, you'll either stay like this, or you'll raise your hand. But first, let's actually meet some of our volunteers here, starting with position number 1. If you'd like to say your name, perhaps where you're from and or studying.
Hi, my name is Brooke. I'm from Indiana, and I'm studying biology and computer science.
Good for you, Brooke. Hai să dăm puțin mai departe, nu? Că unde n-ai caption.
I'm studying electrical engineering.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Sharon. I'm from Linda, and I'm studying season 9.
So it turns out these Ray-Bans actually record video footage, and we have a couple of them, and we thought we'd offer them to a couple of volunteers if everyone wants to record their point of view. Against those set, on the back of your pieces of paper, you have instructions for the following 3 rounds.
Dacă să vă spera pe acum e
Actually do the mental math and figure out what number these volunteers are representing. So go ahead and execute round 1 either keeping your hand down or raising it appropriately. Okay, what number are our volunteers here representing? 66, because we have a 64 plus a 2. That matches what ASCII letter?
Oh, n-am înțeles, stai să vedem. Matt or Met. I cannot decide.
B was the first letter. Okay, hands down. Round 2, go. A little harder. What's now being represented? I'm starting to hear it. 79 is...
Păi spun. 64 cu 8 sunt 72. 72 cu 2, 4. Cu 1, 5. Stai mă, 64 cu 64 cu 8. Sunt 72, 72 cu 4, 76, 76, da mă, toți care au mâna, 76, 78, 79, 79, ce număr e, dacă 64 e, 79, oh.
So if it's 79, we have the ASCII letter O. Okay, so we've got B, O, and then lastly, third round, go.
Ah, ok. Îți dai seama că ei se gândesc 7 cu 16, 23, 23 cu 64. 87! 87 W. Wow! Așa, asta se întâmplă.
What number is this? 87, which spells the letter W, which spells the word, not bow. Take a bow if you could. All right, a round of applause for our volunteers here.
Ok, deci am învățat că gândim în binar, după aia am învățat că fiecare literă are un număr reprezentativ în...
Which sounds like plenty for English, and indeed it is. 0 through 9, A through B, capital and uppercase and lowercase, as well as punctuation. But there's so many other human languages in the world that have other characters.
O combină înapoi, mă duc să iau niște apă.
Bits, you can actually represent as many as 1 billion possible characters, which is quite a bit. No pun intended. So, what else can we represent?
Asta e bine.
Not just ask even something that is Unicode, which is a newer standard, is to be backwards compatible with ASCII. So few minutes or hours, most of you have used one or more of these here emojis, pictograms, which turns out are just characters on a keyboard. You might have to hit a special button to pull up that form of the keyboard, but these are just here characters. Which is 4 billion and represent things beyond English and human languages alone. When it comes to Unicode, it turns out Unicode years ago standardized this pattern of 32 zeros and ones to represent just one of those emojis. Emoji tend to use even more here. Anyone know what decimal number this is?
Am dezvoltat o obsesie pentru cola 0. Chiar îți dă dependența pe efectiv.
decimal number that actually represents, as of present, the most popular emoji in the world. Does anyone want to hazard a guess what emoji this here number represents?
The smiley face.
Hearts? No, but it's actually this so-called face with tears of joy. So perhaps think about the frequency with you send that one, and even though it's obviously a picture on the screen, sure, it actually is more like a font, because underneath the hood is indeed a pattern of zeros and ones or a decimal number that the computer is storing, but the computer, be it Mac OS or Windows or...
Sunt curios, chat, cum se aude... Cum se aude pe... Ok. Sunt curios, nu o să pun stop, sunt curios chat cum se aude pe live. Dacă chiar... Deși sunt convins că o să se audă prost. Nu să pun stop, sunt curios chat cum se aude.
If the Americans in this room, so to say, use how many different characters can you represent with a computer in this story? So only 255, technically 256, if we again start counting from zero. So that's not nearly enough, but it can't to represent all human languages, but it is enough to represent at least English among some others. So here, for instance, is a chart of the English. It turns out that we zoom in on this column here.
Okay, just 64 e around apparent. Și avem 68, Paul. Ok. Da, curious să te considerăm. Ok, ai toate caracterele și până la 127 și 28. Bă, nu se aude super bine, dar asta e altă chestie pe care aș putea să le pun ca notiță. Gen, cum ați putea, de exemplu, pun un video și cum s-ar putea auzi mai bine. Dar asta e pentru că astăzi avem background-ul pe settings. Am învățat ceva. Audio, uite, vezi, dacă audio input, cred că aici.
Using the same pattern of zeros and ones. So different artists render these here emoji in different ways, but all they are here are patterns. Now, for all the other answers, save one that was shouted out a moment ago, this is a sort of cloud diagram of the most popular emoji as of a couple of years ago per Unicode, whereby the size of the emoji indicates its relative popularity. So heart I did here over here is indeed one of the most popular ones as well. Question. A really good question. Why do certain emoji not show up on one device or another? It depends on how recent the software is. Pretty much every year, the humans behind the Unicode Consortium release new emoji, which is to say, they decide that this other pattern will represent this new emoji, this other pattern will represent this new emoji. And unless you update your phone, your laptop, your desktop to the very latest software, and the manufacturer of that device or software also update hiring an artist to draw those pictures in their own font, in their own style, you're going to see usually just like an empty black square, or maybe just like a black and white heart instead of something more colorful, really just placeholders, because it's as though you don't have the right font installed, or really you have an older version of that same font installed. And it's become sort of an annual tradition that new and more emoji are released every year, which is among the reasons why these updates contain more and more. Yeah. That is an amazing segue. How do you represent color in bytes? Well, you use RGB, which happens to be, by coincidence, the next slide. So let's again recap. We know how to represent numbers, we know how to represent emoji, but those emoji technically on the screen are of course composed of colors, like a whole bunch of yellow for that their smiley face. How do computers then, using only zeros and ones, represent colors? Well, by convention, they typically use a system that by an acronym is called RGB, red, green, blue. And this is to say that a computer, to represent a single dot on the screen, maybe this one, will allocate some number of bits or some number of bytes to represent the color of just that their dot otherwise known as a pixel. You can actually see pixels on your phone or even on your TV or monitor. You go really close, especially if it's an older monitor, you can see the tiny little squares. Each of those has some number of bits telling the device what color to use. In particular, these devices typically use 3 numbers in total, 3 bytes. So that is to say 24 bits per pixel, and they do this. If you were to represent a single dot on the screen using these 3 numbers, just by intent here, this is 72, 73, 33, which in the context of a text message, an email, or Google Doc represents, of course, high. Textually, what if a computer uses that same pattern of zeros and ones, that is the same pattern of decimal digits, to represent the color on a screen, which is germane if you're opening an image using Photoshop. So using a different piece of software that knows about colors and images and not just text. Well, this would imply that you want that dot on the screen to have like a medium amount of red, a medium amount of green, and a little bit of blue. Why do I see medium and little? Well, again, if each of these numbers is using 8 bits or 1 byte, the highest we can count, as we discovered, was 255. So I'm kind of averaging here. So 72 out of 255 feels to me like a medium amount of red. 33 feels like relatively little blue. But if now the computer combines those wavelengths of light, so to speak, a medium amount of red, medium amount of green, a little bit of blue, what you get is the color code for a single dot. And does anyone want to guess what color roughly this represents? These 3 bytes?
Purple.
Not white, not purple.
Aha, ce tare.
Yellow, in fact, is the answer. So it represents in a single pixel roughly this shade here of yellow. Which is to say, if we look back at any of those emoji, which again are represented by patterns of zeros and ones, but you and I as humans perceive them as images on the screen, let me actually go ahead and zoom in further to one such sample emoji. And when you zoom in far enough, or you put the phone close enough to your face, you can actually see all of those little dots known as pixels, all of the little squares. And given that so many of these pictures are yellow, that is to say, that 72, 73, 33 is used to represent this pixel. Another 3 identical bytes are used to represent this pixel, this one, and so forth. So now if you've taken digital photos on your phone or a camera, you're probably generally familiar from the internet and hardware today that a photograph is what, like 1 megabyte, 10 megabytes, depending on the resolution of it. Well, megabyte means millions of bytes. Where are all of these bytes inside of these photographs or these images you're taking or downloading? They correspond to every one of the single pixels on the screen. There's at least 3 bytes being used to represent every one of those dots. As an aside, bit of a white lie, because nowadays there's fancy compression software that can use fewer than that many bytes, but in general, that's where all of those bytes, those millions of bytes.
Bă, tu trebuie să-mi iau pasul.
How was that for an answer to how do we represent
That is okay.
colors? Thank you. So, if we agreed now that there's this way, and perhaps others to represent colors, well, how do we represent not just images, but videos? Well, videos, once upon a time, or movies were called motion pictures. So, most pictures with motion. Why is that? Well, it's analogous to growing up. If you ever played with one of these picture books, and in fact, there's memes nowadays that have made these popular again, whereby you have a whole bunch of images on individual sheets of paper, and if you flip through them fast enough, your human mind and eyes perceive it as actual motion, even though you're just seeing image, but it's so fast it looks like motion. That's all a video is on your screen. That's all a film is on your TV. It is not, in fact, continuous motion. It's maybe 30 frames or images per second, maybe 24 frames or images per second, which is to say, we know how to represent numbers, we know how to represent letters, we know how to represent colors and thus images. Now we kind of get videos for free because it's just more of the same. Use more and more of those patterns. Why are videos so darn large? Why are they gigabytes to download? Billions of bytes? Because there's so many darn images, 30 some odd images per second in those kinds of videos. And maybe lastly, just to top off our multimedia, how can you represent sound? Maybe musicians in the room, how using only zeros and ones could you represent something as sonorous as music? Something analog as digital, yeah. Yeah, so each number that we store in the computer could correspond to a certain frequency, which has a direct relationship to the sound or the pitch of a note. For instance, in the world of piano and many other instruments, you've got like your A, your B, your C, maybe you have sharps and flats as well. We could just agree, like the ASCII people did years ago, to represent the musical note A, let's use this pattern. The musical note A sharp, let's use this pattern, and so forth. But maybe pitch alone or frequency alone is not enough. Maybe we need that number, but maybe a second number for the volume, the sort of digital equivalent of how hard are you hitting the key on the piano. Maybe a third number for how long are you holding the key down. So maybe the pitch and the volume and the duration, kind of like RGB, we could use 3 bytes to represent every musical note in some piece. And if we wanted to keep track of what instrument should be played by the computer to sound that music, well, maybe that's just a 4th byte or something else as well. Which is to say, at the end of the day, all we have are these zeros and ones to throw at the problem. So for now, that's it for representing information. We've got our numbers, we've got our letters, we've got our image, colors and images, our videos, and now sound. Any questions on how computers then are representing, as promised, those inputs and outputs using just zeros and ones? Yeah, in the middle. Correct. So the computer is taking as input at the end of the day zeros and ones and is outputting zeros and ones. However, as we'll learn in this class, by writing software, by writing code that understands those zeros and ones, we will enjoy not just literally seeing zeros and ones, we will see A, B, C, we will see colors, we will see video, we will hear sound, so long as we write the code to interpret those zeros and ones. And indeed, it's worth noting now that that same pattern I keep using for an example, 72, 73, 33. How does a computer know? Is that the message high? Is that the color yellow? Is it a dot in a video alone? Just depends on the context. Simply put, if you're opening that pattern of zeros and ones with like Excel or a calculator program, odds are the software will interpret those 3 bytes as numbers.
Mamă, ce transferat asta. E fiert, a transferat. Deci ăsta vorbește de 46 de minute și are un flow super bun. Și efectiv, adică vorbește, rupe.
If though you open that same pattern in a text messaging program, Google Docs, Microsoft Word, that same pattern will be interpreted as a sequence of letters. Instead, if you open Photoshop, that same pattern, you'll probably see a single dot that happens to be yellow. Conversely, once you yourself are a programmer or even better programmer, you will be able to write in code how you want the computer to treat these patterns of zeros and ones. You can essentially tell the computer, use this to store a number or a letter or a color or something else. That's the power the programmer themselves had at the end of the day. Other questions on representing things with bits? No? All right. So lastly then, in this middle of this black box.
O lăsăm aici la algoritm pentru că nu o să pot să fiu atent. Și o să vreau să învăț. Și o să vin eu cu un recap, page not found. Bun, ce să... El zice că intro to code. M-am făcut aceeași chestie. Bă, nu mi-a găsit ăsta, programa roadmap. Ok, the programming foundation before learning a language. Asta e link-ul. Dar nu știu de ce unde l-a găsit el. Let me share a story from our time. In 2016, I thought I wasn't cut off for programming. After months of trying and failing with my first language, I came to the conclusion I wasn't smart enough. I thought some people were naturally gifted, while others like me simply weren't meant for programming. Ăsta e și gândul meu, efectiv de fiecare dată am zis așa că sunt prea prost, sunt prea prost, sunt prea prost. Hai să vedem ce zice mai departe. Deci fast forward to today, 8 years later, I've become proficient in several programming languages. Looking back, I realized programming doesn't come naturally to anyone. The difference between those who seem gifted and those of us who struggled, it is simple. It's all about having the right foundational knowledge. Programming is like walking into a movie. Halfway through, you can't understand what's happening because you miss the beginning. The same applies to programming. You can't build an advanced calculator app without understanding basic data types or algorithms. Here's the truth. Programming isn't inherently difficult. Most beginners struggle because they skip foundational steps. Asta am făcut și eu. Without these prerequisites, programming can feel like trying to swim in a deep end without first learning how to float. But don't worry, I've got you covered. By the end of this article, you'll know exactly what the prerequisites are, how to develop them, and why they are the key to making programming click for you. Here what we'll cover. I think this is a fucking good article if you ask me. So why programming feels hard, and it's not about talent. Okay, let me pick up a story again. By 2018, I was becoming confident developer. I could build basic websites, fetch data from a database using API, and display it on the screen. I thought I had programming figured out. Then came my first job interview. During the interview, I was asked a seemingly simple question. What happens when you type www into the address bar and press enter? You have 30 minutes. What the fuck happens? I don't know this. I don't know this. If you ask me, I don't know how to respond to this. It's like HTTP fuck, which is a protocol, and then the URL. Wow. Okay, he also said something about HTTP. So later I Googled the question out of curiosity. What I found shocked me. The question wasn't just about typing and entering a URL. It was about network servers, DNS, lookouts, HTTP request rendering engines, and more. That's when it hit me. I had barely scratched the surface. There was so much foundational knowledge I was missing. If I have to learn every fucking shit, that will be fucking insane. I will be only here. Like you will find roots building from this here. I will become a tree. I mean, to know all those things, and now I'm complaining. I know, and now I'm fucking complaining. I know. I have the tendencies to do that. So what can I do more? That day I realized programming isn't just about fetching data from a database or making a website look good. It's about understanding the layers beneath the surface. If you're curious, I didn't get the job. In fact, I never heard back from them. Honestly, I wouldn't have hired me either. Now, you know what problem I have with this is the fact that, okay, they are asking you questions about what is a HTTP request, what it's an URL, what's network servers, DNS lookups. But at your actual job, you will really do only this, like go render data from a database. So, okay, does it help? No, 100%. You are better, yes, 100%. But if we are speaking in terms of, okay, I will need a person that knows how to do the task. The task is not to reinvent the protocol. The task is not to explain. Okay, that's my 2 cents about it. I might be wrong. I know I'm wrong. Some others have a different opinion about this, but I don't know. Just do the job, give me the money, and I can go and do, I don't know, do other things maybe. I don't know. Because you don't hire me. Oh, okay. Let's resume to another thing because I am getting pissed. The real problem isn't talent. Here's the key takeaway. Programming success isn't about talent or intelligence. If you try to learn programming without the right preparation, you'll keep hitting a wall of frustration. I mean, yeah. I mean, and every time you have the thing that you are not good enough, you are not smart enough, every time. I don't know why. So no, it's not talent you lack, it's preparation. And the good news, lack of preparation is something you can fix. Okay, I'm trying to do this, like, I think for 7 years, and I didn't find, like, I'm doing something, I'm watching the tutorial, then I pause it, and after 1 year, I'm trying to go back at it or just write some code out of my brain, and like, fuck, how was it? And I'm like blind. But yeah, my job is not programming, which I don't have the exercise, but yeah. But this is what I'm trying to fix. And I think reading and putting more effort to it, I might conquer this problem, because this is what is the plan. This is why we start the stream. This is why I want to record my thoughts, record the process, and also speak a little better in English, make the point that I want to make, put something in your mouth. I don't know. Okay, the prerequisites you actually need, the prerequisites you actually need. To understand the prerequisites, let's take a step back and consider what a computer is actually for. At its core, the main purpose of a computer is to take the user input, perform computations, and display the output. Okay, every piece of software program ever developed revolves around this key task. As a programmer, role is to create software that performs these functions properly. To do this, you need to build your skills in a way that aligns with this task. This means learning about data structures and algorithms, and then diving into a programming language. Let's dig into each of these skills more deeply. I think what I am lacking is data structure and algorithms, because I have no clue. I can name some programming languages and I can read some code. I mean, yeah, if I dive into my project and something like that, I can read it. I cannot rewrite it. If someone will be like, okay, I will delete everything you did, because I'm also doing it, vibe coding it, and yeah, which really, I think it takes the pleasure a bit from what you want to create with your hands, maybe with your eyes, which I know, and then you are stuck. Data structures. Okay, let's see what I know. Arrays. I know arrays, edge tables or dictionaries. I know this. Okay, what language is this? Customer equals John, Jane using an array. But you don't set it. Print. Who has print? JavaScript has log, right? Print. Who knows? Customer equals, this is an object. But using a hash table. Algorithm provider problems and internal programming is diving into some cool algorithms and bubble sort, the basic of sorting. You know what I was failing every time, and now I get the question, because I was like doing, let's see, in the interview, and which I will learn. So every time, maybe let's try JavaScript. I think I can do it with the console. Maybe let's go back. What is this? This is Safari, parking Safari. I don't know why I use Safari. I have a bad behavior towards Safari usage. So maybe that doesn't matter. Let's see, Google console, inspect console. Well, clear. It's a function. Well, I have a let x equals. There's a palindrome question. So the palindrome question is practically if you reverse something, it will be the same thing when you reverse it. So let x equals, I don't think you can write this, right? Let x equal in the console. I don't know. And I was doing x reverse. X reverse is not a function, but then I don't think you can do it. I don't know. It would be nice to have a fucking playground to play with it. Right sign for Divo. No. Let's see. Code editor. All right. I think you can do it. Code editor. No. No. Online IDE. I think JavaScript Online. Playground. JavaScript Online Playground. Okay. Play code. Start coding. Okay. Const x equals mama. I was doing key x. And reverse is not, I think I could do it, right? X reverse. I think I was doing it in Java. I don't know. Let's see. A reverse MDMN. Array process. No, I have. Okay, I have reverse here, and then you reverse the array. Okay, reverse a string. It was in JavaScript to reverse array prototype. I think you could do it. Maybe I was doing like this. Let's see. Const equals mama. I think so. There's duplicate. Okay, and I was doing it x. Give me a palindrome example. Civic radar. Okay, radar. Palindrome example. It's radar. Okay, radar. So the idea is to have, I think, x, and then you do splice, x split, and then you do reverse. I forgot how the thing. See that how it's not an array anymore. So I don't know, prototype split on a string. Because it's not a string. And then the string, okay, it creates the string. So if I want to array to string, I don't know. Okay, do it to string and that's it. That will be it. Reverse. And that will be wait. No, split is creating from x. Console log x. It is doing also x, right? Rodar prototype, blah 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 blah. And do x to string. Okay, let's do it like this. That annoys me. And then you do p radar. Okay. But if you do the, I don't know why. If you can do it like this, but this will not compile. And then, okay. I was doing x reverse. Can you do it like x reverse? I think, and then you can do to string. Okay. Yeah, so this is the example I was doing, but this was not allowed, and they wanted something to how to do it, to reinvent the wheel in an interview. So which sucks, I think, because you need to do x for each x for each. Wait a second. I think you do x to string split it will create another array, but you need to put the rule for split, right? I forgot to. Anyway, you need to find the algorithm how to do it, and you need to have your mind to think about it. And then, for example, you have a okay, I'm missing something. Yeah. So the idea, you already have an array, and then you do the split, and it's already a string, and it doesn't have any. So you do x split. Rather is not defined. Okay, rather is a string, and this is why. And then you have x, but you should have split it, right? Wait a second. Slice? Huh? Anyway, and I always fail on those interviews. But I think the idea is not to. They do not verify if you know how to split or how to do or how to use the functions or whatever. They're asking you if you have like a basic programming, and basic programming is built on algorithm based and fundamentals, which I don't have. I know split, I know every shit here. Maybe if I read it and then okay, I get the job done. Like if we go back to the story we had with this guy and my 2 cents about this HTTP request, I think yeah, everything will make sense right now. That is not about you knowing, about having the fundamentals, and if you have the fundamentals, then you can resolve other problems. If you do not have the fundamentals, then it will be more difficult for you to resolve problems or to have a analytical mind. And this is what I think you need. And these interviews, I hated them because live coding or stuff like that, I hated them. But I think that's the thing that will make the difference. And you need to start with fundamentals. And yeah. Anyway, that was a test for the stream. So I think that's all. That's all. We have an article. We have something. We switch from Romanian to English. We want to try it out. We have one problem that we need to resolve. It's do we have the capacity to switch the audio for you to hear it perfectly? What I hear, I wish you will hear it without a problem. We resolve the background. We found some info. We read about it, so it's not a wasted time. And yeah, I think that's it. That's a good stream. That's something I will know. I will become better, better, and better. It's just about continuity that we have. Anyway, cheers. See you. Probably nobody will see this, but see you. And thank you for the stream.